Back to Tank contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Your latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, hello everybody. We are here for the Star Wars Rebels edition, the From the Back to Tank Star Wars Rebels edition. I need to get that name straight, name right. But today I am in here in studio with Dustin Lucas. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. This will be the first show that you and I do together alone.
Yeah.
We'll get some one-on-one time, just you and I. So anyways, after a long week hiatus, Star Wars Rebels returns with its 9th or 10th episode, depending on your point of view, or what Dustin wrote, your certain point of view, taking from Obi-Wan's line there.
A certain point of view?
Yeah. So the reason why I say that is because there seems to be some debate on what actual episode number this is. Even on Reddit, there was a discussion because people are counting the movie, the pilot episode. They're considering that now a feature version of Star Wars Rebels because it had a very small theatrical release and it was also released on ABC as a film/movie. So now there's debate as to what episode number this is. I think it seems like the large percentage of people are saying, if you look at the sites, they're saying episode 9, but then some people are saying episode 10 if you look at IMDb. So I think just for the sake of argument, Dustin, we're going to call this episode 9.
Okay. I mean...
All right. And if we're wrong, then we're wrong, and you can troll us and hate us on Twitter. Just a hashtag #FromBacta. Make sure you put all your insults on that hashtag.
Well, I'm just saying all the fan sites say that it's episode 9. All the actual, like, IMDb, it says that it's episode 10. And yeah. I understand that it was a feature. You know, the first episode was considered a feature. But, I mean, look at Battlestar Galactica. You know, the first 2 episodes of that was a feature of the miniseries, and it's still considered to be a episode. Fucking troll.
Yeah. It's probably just a money thing that Lucasfilm and Disney tried to do at the end. They're like, hey, you know what? Let's just, end up repackaging this as a movie rather than a series. Because that way, if you look at all the ways that you can buy them on Google Play, iTunes, all the different places that you can stream them, when you buy them, you can't buy the movie with the subscription package to the episode. So if you go to iTunes and you want to subscribe, yeah, you spend $30 on the HD version for episode 1, which starts with droids in distress, and then you have to buy separately the movie. So it could be solely a business decision.
Well, I mean, it's smart, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. So today we will be discussing Idiot's Array, which we'll break down and discuss in just a few short moments. But first, we got a little bit of Star Wars Rebels news, very, very small amount. Star Wars Rebels news: Marvel revives Star Wars Rebels, Kanan and new comic book series. Now, this is something we actually discussed, Dustin, on one of our shows. If we were going to start seeing Kanan popping up, and not just Kanan, but other characters from Rebels from the main cast: Hera, Sabine, Zeb, Chopper, Ezra. And I didn't really expect it to happen this soon. Kanan makes sense just because they had a whole book pretty much on him and Hera, but I thought that's all we were gonna get was a new Dawn for at least a year or so.
Yeah,
but they're jumping right in with a full blown comic book series. Now, as of right now, it's being listed. If you want to go by this site here, Comic News, DigitalSpy.com, they're saying that it's going to be a short run series for now. And they say for now, and that's actually stated by Marvel themselves. So I think they're waiting to see how well it does.
Well, he's a good character, and it's something we haven't seen before. So I think it's pretty smart that they're going to give him a little bit of a longer run. I think it'll turn into a long run.
Yeah, I do too, especially because of the success of Star Wars Rebels. But the only thing is this is called, Marvel Comics has revealed Star Wars spinoff Kanan, The Last Padawan, in its latest salutations. The Star Wars Rebels character will feature in the new series from Greg Weisman and Pepe Lorez. Hopefully I said that correct. Sorry, Pepe. Or it could be Pepe. What do you think, Dustin? Is it Pepe or Pepe?
It's most likely Pepe.
So this is my only thought. Now, obviously, it's called Star Wars Kanan, The Last Padawan. So we're going to be seeing a prequel of Kanan when he's a young person before the fall of the Republic. Now, my only, I guess, qualms I might have, me personally, I don't care. But from a fan perspective and just judging on, the fans and what they want to see, are we ready to go back to that time frame already as a fan base? And as we're kind of moving forward. We're moving past the whole Clone Wars era. Is this something that we want to see again? What are your thoughts, Dustin?
I kind of agree. I really don't want to see any more from that era. I think we've kind of played it out as much as it can go.
At least for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, leave it until at least after the new movie comes out. Start pushing things, prequel-wise a little bit after that. I want to see more stuff. I want to see new things in this time frame.
Right. And, of course, if they end up doing that Qui-Gon Jinn spinoff that they've been talking about, they do that, that's a little different. I might want to see that if they do it the right way. But, yeah, I think most of the fandoms is kind of leaning in the same direction as us is, you know what? We've seen that for many years. There's nothing wrong with it. We love it. But let's take a little bit of a break and focus on this new time period. So, again, I'm not saying this is a series that's not going to be good. I'm just saying that they better really plan out their writing for this so that people are interested, because I think that era, like you said, I don't know if it's played out necessarily, but yeah, I think it might be played out. Like we've seen it.
There's just so much content from it.
Yeah, I agree. So it's going to heavily rely on the Star Wars Rebels success, obviously, and of course, the writing, solely 100% from writing. The writing needs to be there from beginning to end, and also their marketing needs to be good, because no one's going to know how well the writing is unless they decide to pick up and read the issues. So we will see. Now that comes out, I believe, is scheduled to release. Of course, his name's not going to be Kanan, which is going to be another possible issue for Star Wars fans. His real name is Caleb Doom. I believe that's how you pronounce.
I don't want to be wrong and say it's like Dume.
Right. If you
something weird like
if you want to be uppity, you might want to call it Dume. Caleb Dume, if you want to be uppity.
With a pinky up.
Right. So, so it's coming out in April, I believe. If my computer wasn't so effing slow, I would write this down. Hold on one second. Yes, Star Wars Kanan, The Last Padawan, will debut in April. So we can all look forward to that. I'm definitely going to check it out. But again, writing needs to be good.
Well, I've talked to quite a few people who have been listening to our shows, and they describe Star Wars Rebels, even say, well, the animation, they want to complain about that. I think it's amazing, but they say to get past the animation, it's the writing that really draws them in, and the story. So I think even this Kanan series, it'll still be good. I think they got their writing on point.
Yeah, they do. All right. On that note, let's jump into segment 2, where we're going to start breaking down Star Wars Rebels discussion, episode 9 or 10, Idiot's Array. Now, Idiot's Array is the 9th episode or 10 of the first season of Rebels. Episode features Billy Dee Williams reprising his original trilogy role of Lando Calrissian.
Yay!
Synopsis is the episode centers around the crew of the Ghost working for Lando after Zeb loses a sabacc bet to the smuggler and gambler. Calrissian uses the crew to his own ends in order to begin a mining operation on Lothal, while at the same time evading a crime lord called Azmorigan. Is that how you'd say that too?
Azmorigan.
Azmorigan, yeah, all right. I think I tried to uppity it up.
Pinky up.
Yeah. So Zeb bets and loses Chopper to a galactic entrepreneur, which I think is the line of the episode.
Yeah.
I think that might be the best line in Rebels yet.
That means businessman.
Yeah. Lando Calrissian in a game of sabacc, forcing the Ghost Crew to assist Calrissian in a dangerous smuggling run to get the droid back. The run involves trading Hera to crime lord Azmorigan in exchange for a puffer pig, leaving Syndulla to flee Azmorigan in an escape pod. We'll just say Hera. Humiliated, Azmorigan and his henchmen intercept the rebels on Lothal to take revenge. Now, let's just tackle the thing that we want to tackle first, which I'm sure everybody's been talking about. It's all over the internet. Billy Dee Williams, his Twitter has gone through the roof with this episode. I love that's all it takes. I mean, he's always been a hit. I mean, I went to a Comic-Con, I don't know, I went to a small Comic-Con in like 2 or 3 years ago, very small, and he was the biggest guest there. And the line was wrapped around the entire convention center just to meet him. Okay.
Was he dressed up in the garb?
No, he was wearing regular clothes, but dude, he was charging $90. Okay.
Oh, no, they'll pay it
for his signature, and there had to have been at least 300 or 400 people in line. Dude, add that up. That is ridiculous. And he was there for like an hour.
Well, he's Star Wars, man. He's attached to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
He's always going to be a star.
Yeah, he's a galactic entrepreneur. So stupid. Charging $90.
That means businessman, and I'm charging $90.
Yeah. Now, okay, Lando's return. Let's get serious for a moment here. Now, his introduction, I don't think it could have been any better for his introduction. I mean, he isn't a gun wielder. He isn't like, he is a smuggler, but he isn't the gun guy. He isn't the kind of guy, you know, because some people said, oh, it would have been better if he was an action scene with Lando. But I want to disagree with that. From a straight personal, from a straight fanboy perspective, and that's how I'm going to tackle this Lando issue for a moment. Is I really liked his introduction. It was he was swindling. He obviously cheated. I mean, in my opinion, I'm pretty sure he probably cheated.
Yeah.
And of course it was the game of sabacc, which is, you know, the game of choice for the underworld likes, like smugglers, pirates, etc. So I thought his introduction was just brilliant. You know, the winning hand, which was titled Idiot's Array, which was suiting for the name of the title, obviously. What was your thoughts on his introduction?
Well, I know, I'm pretty sure he did cheat. I mean, according to sabacc, the rules.
Is it sabacc? Are you upping it up, or is it really called sabacc?
They called it sabacc.
Okay, I just say sabacc. I'm a Mexican. I mispronounce things.
What's his name? Zeb had the hand that was sabacc. I guess that's the best hand you can get. Well, the only hand that can beat it is the Idiot's Array. What are the chances of that really happening? Yeah. For real.
Look at you knowing the game rules too.
Well, I'm reading them right now. But yeah, seeing him kind of in the shadows, like the camera angle is looking straight at Zeb, and he's just, you know, flaunting his hand. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna bet my droid." And you kind of see the hand come in and, you know, put it in. You're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I kind of recognize that silhouette."
Yeah.
And then out of the shadows, he's like, "And it's Calrissian, Lando Calrissian." You're like, "Oh!"
Yeah. Even though I knew that he was going to be in it, you know, I still was like all giddy. Like had a big old smile on my face when he popped into frame. I was all excited. But I like what they're doing with this. You know, first off, it did feel like old times. I put it as a question mark in show notes just so I can get your feedback as well. To me, it felt like Lando. It wasn't just some new character. They didn't bother us with a long origin story of Lando, which I'm sure we'll get that someday. Now that now that Disney and Lucasfilm are working together, I'm sure someday we'll see a true origin story. But we didn't need to see it at this point because the Star Wars Rebels isn't about Lando. What we got was the Lando that we know. Obviously, you don't change much in 10 years, which I think is the time difference between roughly 10 to 12 years between this episode and Empire Strikes Back when we saw Lando on Cloud City.
Yeah.
And you saw little traces of his life, like with the mining aspect, which we'll get into that, which is what Bespin is in Cloud City, was a mining colony, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, so, the Bespin gas mines, right?
Yeah. Now, did you think it felt like Lando? Did you have any issues with how they portrayed him?
No, it was so perfect. And just like you said before, Lando's not the gunfighter. He's not Han Solo. He's not like a space pirate, if you want to call Han Solo that. Mm-hmm. He's the smooth talking, swindling. Well, he's a scoundrel.
He's diplomatic. He's very diplomatic as well. And that he's a politician of sorts as well. Like he is much different. Like there are similarities to him and Han Solo. They're a good team, and I would love to see more with them as well down the road. As a side note, there, but they are a team. You've got the rough around the edges version, Han Solo, who's rather shoot than talk, and Lando rather talk his way out of things. And that's what you saw in this episode. You saw him with his winning smile, his Colgate freshly brushed teeth, just smiling his way through everything. I mean, he's screwing over everybody on board that ship, and he's smiling.
And he's got that cool swagger to him. He's like, yes, I really like doing this.
And I liked it because it was very true to Lando. Like, he's a good guy in the end, but he also plays people. He knows the angles, and from the very beginning, he was working an angle with playing sabacc against Zeb. He knew what he was doing, and he was working the angles. And the minute he stepped foot on the Ghost, on their ship, he was working. That's him, which I like that they stayed true.
I like how you put it. He's kind of a politician in a way.
Yeah, very much so. Which I do want to get into this. Don't let me forget. I want to talk about some of the political subtext later in the episode, which I love. I always have loved that about Star Wars. Now let's get into the technical aspects of things, and I'm going to try really hard. Both of us, I think, need to try hard to separate the fan of us, what we want as a fan, and what we want, and from a technical. Like, if we weren't fans, how would we view this episode? And we can play on both sides. We can play devil's advocate to our own opinions.
Just trying to stay objective.
Right, exactly. Now, the character design let's get into some facts here. The character design for Azmorigan was based on Ralph McCreary's original concept for Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi. And when I read that piece of information, it just made me look at the Star Wars Rebels, production team that much better. The fact that it goes to show you why Star Wars, and this is like the 4th or 5th time they've done this already. This is why Star Wars Rebels feels like Star Wars, because they're taking from many of the old, if you look at the things they're doing with Episode 7 as well, the volleyball, as the trolls are calling it, the volleyball droid, was the original concept for R2.
Yeah, and everybody wanted to complain about that.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that they're taking old ideas and reusing them from things that we've never seen. And I think that is why Rebels and much of what we're seeing with the new incarnations of Star Wars, I think that's why old school fans are enjoying it, and it feels much more like the Star Wars that we grew up with.
I did not know that was the original character design for Jabba the Hutt. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like him too. I mean, at first I was kind of, this is going to be a weird Clone Wars kiddie moment. But you know what? There's alien species out in the universe. They're not all going to look scary and cool. Some of them got to look blobbish. I mean, Jabba isn't necessarily cool looking.
He's awful. And so is Azmorigan on this. I mean, he was sloppy. He was dirty. He was just rude, and everything Jabba the Hutt was in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I just like that they think they're going to be able to perform with a female, with a chick. Like, Jabba is all getting sexual with Leia in Return of the Jedi. I'm like, come on, simmer down, dude. Where do you even know where your penis is at? How is this going to work? Right. Like, how is this really going to work from a technical standpoint, a sheer technical standpoint? How is this going to work? And same thing with Azmorigan. Like, does he even function that way?
Hey, man, got to get it somehow.
So stupid. Yeah. Now, the episode was a bit lighthearted. I think this episode can be put into a subjective category when talking about likability. And what I mean by that is it kind of depends on what you go for in your content. Some people is okay with lighthearted. Some people want more of the dark elements. Personally, me, I like the dark themes. I like more. I'm okay with episodes giving you a lighthearted feel to kind of take a break from what we've been seeing, and you can kind of say that. I mean, from the past 4 episodes of Rebels has been not dark, but more serious tone.
Intense. They were pretty intense.
Yeah. So now they're taking kind of a different turn, which is, writing 101 for television. They're kind of giving you a little bit of a break, keeping you on task with the storyline, some people were saying that this was a complete throwaway episode. I don't know if it was or not, because there were little elements here and there that, specifically with Lando, I don't think they brought Lando in just for a guest appearance. They're not hurting for ratings, so they're not, they didn't need to do it. Now, if they were like suffering miserably and the show's ratings were plummeting, then I would see why they would bring Lando in for stunt casting, using Billy Dee Williams. The show isn't hurting. In my opinion, I think this was, something for the fans, obviously for the old school fans, but also I think they're going to go back to him. I think they're going to circle back, because the way it ended, first off, he's on Lothal. Mm-hmm. Okay. He owns a farm on Lothal.
I mean, how he got there, I don't know, but it would be interesting to see how he got there.
Right, and plus, since he has a farm on Lothal, obviously he's not too far away. So I think they're going to use him here and there throughout the I don't know how much they're going to use him and how much they are allowed to, because I'm sure Lucasfilm and Disney, they have plans for a character like that. I mean, he's a major character. He's a major character in the Star Wars universe.
Absolutely.
So, and that was a risk they took by putting him in Rebels, but I think it was okay. Even from a writing standpoint, looking at it from a fan point, I think they wrote him well. I think they introduced him and used him in writing 101 for a guest star. I think they used him pretty well. I don't feel like the episode was a waste of time or forced either. Again, I saw a little bit of hate on the episode. They said, despite Lando being in it, it was awesome, but this is a complete throwaway episode. How did you feel about that?
It was very light, but we all three said on the last update that this was going to be a lighthearted show. This one was definitely going to be lighthearted because of how intense the previous shows were. So I didn't walk into this knowing that, or thinking that it was going to be, intense and drama filled and awesome. Although it was good, it was very, very lighthearted, and it was just goofy at some points. That puffer pig, come on, man. But
yeah, that was a bit much.
Don't scare the puffer pig.
That was that was for the kids. That was for the kids. And you know how I try to look at this? I try to look at things as how would it look as a film or a movie. Would we see a puffer pig in a film version, in a live action version of Star Wars?
No.
Hopefully not.
No.
That would look completely terrible.
Oh my God.
Okay. And then I did the same thing with Azmorigan. I hope I'm saying that right. Azmorigan is can I see him in a live action version of Star Wars? And yes, I can.
Absolutely.
I can see him easily. And that's how I could distinguish the two. The puffer pig had to go. I liked in the end, I do like how they circled back and explained what he did, which I thought was interesting. That he is a natural way to look for, I guess, what was it, minerals or basically a mining device.
Yeah, he can sniff out the precious resources.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And it makes sense to it kind of puts a little final dot in Lando's story arc for this episode. But I think my final thought would be I don't want to jump to final thought yet. Hold on, simmer down, Mike. You know what? Let's segue over to Ezra's lightsaber.
Oh boy.
We're kind of jumping around, but that's fine. Ezra's lightsaber. You were right, Dustin. And you said that you called it out 2 weeks ago when he built his lightsaber. You said, because they didn't really cover that. I thought I might have missed something, but in this episode, Kanan even jumped when Ezra pulled out his blaster. Kanan's all like, wait a second, we don't want to use that, and he's like, wait a second, it's just a blaster. So we now see that his lightsaber doubles as a blaster.
Brilliant. It is so brilliant. I never would have thought of that. But
yeah, it is cool. I have thought about that, years ago when I was a kid. I'm like, well, how hard would it be to make it also shoot a beam when you think about it? And but I never really circled around back with that thought. But as a child, I did think about that because it is a laser beam, right? So it would kind of make sense.
Remember his slingshot? I think that he used, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that he used his slingshot as part of the lightsaber because you saw how it shoots. It charges and it fires the blue beam because he has the blue crystal. And it knocked that trooper on his ass. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. And the blaster is similar to the blast beam was similar to his slingshot. So And I thought that was a very cool idea, and it makes sense to the world. And this is, you got to stay consistent, and that's what Star Wars Rebels is doing. You got to stay consistent to what they have set up in this universe so far, in this time period. And it's a very delicate time period to Star Wars fans because we don't know much about it, but we do know Jedis are rare. And they're wanted, obviously, and they're public enemy number one. So, obviously Ezra, he can't slap a lightsaber to his hip. That's why Kanan, breaks it in half and keeps them separate. So it would make sense that Ezra would make something more that would double up and not look like a lightsaber. Because I know a few people are like, oh, I don't know about that. It looks like a stapler. But it makes sense to the world that we're in right now that you can't just make a standard looking lightsaber. It has to double as something or look like something totally different.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
What would you say? What would you say you liked most about this episode thus far?
Lando. That's just bar none. It's got to be Lando. I've been waiting to see anything that relates to the original trilogy, and seeing Lando Calrissian come in on this show especially just blew my mind. That was pretty great.
Yeah, I would agree with Lando for sure. But another person that continually steals scenes in every episode that he's in is Chopper.
I love Chopper so much, man.
And who would have thought, man, there would be another droid worthy, that can compete against R2? Because R2, for without a doubt, has always been I guess there's bad guy droids that we love, but like IG-88 and so on, some bounty hunter droids. But it's interesting that you could make something like this character Chopper and give R2 a run for his money when it comes to just development of a character. And it's amazing how much development they can give this little droid with no dialogue, just straight up mannerisms, attitude. And he's very different, very, very different than R2.
Well, look at Chopper as a droid. I've watched a special on how they made Chopper, and he's just an astromech droid that's been basically, he's Frankenstein. They just built him out of spare parts, and that's why he's got such a, how do they put it? He's temperamental. He's ornery. He's just a cantankerous old droid. That's what they called him.
Yeah, and that's what we said the last episode too. I think we said that he was kind of like just an old mechanic.
Yeah, he's just.
And I like that he's something that's very different. And I think we might have touched on this before, but I do like that. R2 did a lot of cool things, no doubt about it. But I like that this guy actually doesn't hesitate to start blasting people too, which I think is funny. He did it already a few times when he just goes up and he takes the little the turret gun and starts shooting, and then he did the same thing this last episode. I like it, and it's not. I would actually like to see a live action version of him and see how it plays out on screen as not a cartoon. Do you think it would play out? Do you think it would play out good, or do you think it would be too cheesy, a droid shooting?
Oh, I think he would steal the scene in a live action movie.
Yeah, he's one of the few things I think you can possibly throw characters, I guess you can call them, that you can maybe throw in as like an Easter egg in upcoming movies.
Well, I mean, just look at what he did towards the end. Everybody's fighting. They're all shooting at each other, and he's just rushing around trying to steal fuel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. He really is a member of the crew. I like that Harris said that. Now, I guess, you know what, we kind of covered it all. Let's just jump into our final thoughts, and then we'll move on. What do you think your final thoughts on this episode, and then also give it your BACTA grade? Okay.
I really think the episode was great. I knew it was going to be lighthearted, like we discussed. I love that they brought Lando in, and I look forward to seeing him in future episodes. I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I like how Ezra was able to show the versatility of his lightsaber / blaster. It's good to finally see it, in action, and I definitely want to see him using both at the same time. Coming up.
I agree.
Man, I hope he fights the Inquisitor, but I know that's going to be a long way off.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as the grade goes, we said one BACTA is like the best, right?
Yeah, meaning 1 minute in the BACTA tank, 2 minutes in the BACTA tank, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes. How long do you need to stick yourself in the BACTA tank?
I would say 2 minutes. It was a good episode.
Okay.
But it was in no way, shape, or form as good as the last one. The Path of the Jedi just blew my mind.
Yeah, for sure. The last 4 episodes have just been great. All right. Now, my final thoughts, similar to yours. I think Lando was definitely the gem of the episode for sure. And taking myself out of a fan for a moment, I'm gonna look at this from a more objective, I guess, point of view. Writing, I thought, if you just want to break it down for episode value and writing was there. You had a 3-act structure on 30-minute in a 23-minute episode, taking in commercials. I mean, you covered all your bases. You had introduction of a guest, you had the first act, you had the dilemma, you had the second act, you had the third act, and the conclusion. So all elements there from a writing standpoint was spot on. And I don't consider this a throwaway episode for one reason. There was character development. If there wasn't character development if there wasn't little elements of things that they're going to circle back to, foreshadowing of Lando, that they're going to go back to him. If you didn't get elements of Ezra's lightsaber or Chopper's charm, if you didn't get any type of development on these characters, then I would consider it a throwaway episode. To me, this didn't directly pertain to, say, the main storyline of Rebels, but it did open the universe up a bit more to us. We got an introduction of a new alien character, for the most part, who obviously also, I'm sure he's going to end up coming back as well. We saw that Lando's on Lothal, and then the lightsaber thing. I thought that those are very vital, vital plot points that I think coming back around and revisiting, specifically with the lightsaber scene.
Oh, yeah.
So I think this episode opened up the universe of Rebels a bit more, if anything. And I'll probably give it 2. I'm with you on that one. 2 minutes in the back to tank. Now, really fast, I want to talk about the political side of things. And one thing that I've always enjoyed about Star Wars, especially the newer versions of Star Wars, they didn't get really into the political landscape in the original trilogy as much. I mean, yes, you had the Empire and you had the Rebel Alliance. It was kind of straightforward. But then you look at the prequel trilogy, and I thought one of the things, I'm going to give Lucas credit where it's due. And when it comes to the political side of things, I absolutely enjoyed the political, comparisons to what's going on in our world today. It's very timely, specifically with the Emperor and his way, how he doesn't want to let go of power and how he manipulates the entire universe and the Jedi Council into basically creating fake wars, which I think, Dustin, we can all say that we see that today. Wars that are being made just so that people can hold on to power. I thought it's brilliant. I always have thought it was. And now you see this element of something very small, and they're keeping true to the Lucas's groundwork that he laid out with the fact that the rebels arrived at Lando's farmland, where Lando explained his reasons for getting the puffer pig. So this is why I don't hate on the puffer pig, but at least it played something, an important
it was explained
aspect. Right. Because he planned to use this creature to sniff out precious minerals, and since the Empire doesn't want private landholders mining on Lothal, the animal was a more efficient alternative to mining equipment. If you know anything about what's going on today in today's world with our farmers, okay, there are farmers that aren't being allowed to use natural resources because the government has contracts. The government has contracts with companies that they want these farmers to buy products from. So they're not allowed to use their own natural resources or natural means to do certain things, or they'll be slapped with fines. You see something to a more extreme standpoint in Rebels, I thought was brilliant, how the reason why this puffer pig is banned and he's smuggling it is because the Empire wants you to use their mining facilities and their mining means, which means more money for them and their corporations. I thought, even in an episode like this, a show on Disney XD, they stay true to the kind of the groundwork, the politics, the political landscape that Lucas has laid out.
Well, do you think most people actually pick up on that?
No, probably not. I'm a thinker, and I'm my mind's very in the political landscape, but it wasn't just by accident. They're staying true to the political landscape that Lucas has laid out, the political world, I guess, in instance. And that's much of what Star Wars, you have an empire and you have a rebellion.
Yeah.
It's very political. It very much is so. So, on that note, though, Dustin, we totally skipped past this one thing that they explained the rebel symbol that we saw. And again, if any of you hardcore fans out there might know more than me, I know there were some complaints originally where Sabine used some of her graffiti, her anti-establishment graffiti, her anti-government graffiti was actually the rebel symbol. That obviously the Rebel Alliance probably isn't in existence as of yet, at least that we know of. So people were kind of complaining, so Sabine invented the rebel symbol. And you could see that her inspiration was actually taken from a source. And in politics, you see many people in history, many parties will gather around a symbol that may mean something similar. So Janner of Bith, obviously, I don't know too much about him. Maybe he's something new. If again, Star Wars fans out there, if you know something about him, tweet us at from back to tank and let us know. But just from what he said, they're already kind of setting it up, and I'm sure they're gonna explain it more down the road as we get farther into the series. But just the fact that, he said it was impressionistic art, which if anybody knows what that is, impressionistic art is used a lot in times of war. People that may be protesting against war. It's also people's personal views of war, their impressionistic views of war. So
yeah, take it back to Vietnam, man. All the protesters, they had that happy face, the smiley face, the flowers. We're of the peace movement. Yeah, symbols, people flock behind them, and this symbol looks just like the rebel symbol.
Yeah, and many times those symbols are used by other groups of people. If it's tied into some type of anti-establishment movement. So if let's say this symbol is tied into that, it would make sense that more than one group of people are fighting the evil powers, would kind of flock to the symbol. So I'm looking forward to seeing more on that. A lot, actually. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays in and how the rebel symbol may or may not come about.
Yeah, and how the rebels essentially come to power. I'm saying that with air quotes. How they draw more people to their cause, to the rebellion.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. Which means I'm sure we're gonna see Princess Leia someday. We have to, right?
I mean, do you
think we're gonna see her at some point in Rebels?
Well, I think so, man. She's a pivotal point of the rebellion. I mean, the entire first trilogy starts with her with the plans of the Death Star.
Yeah, she's a character that I definitely think, out of all the characters they can possibly throw in that are important in the Star Wars universe, she's a character that you can definitely use. You don't want to put Luke because he's in Tatooine. It'd be kind of forced, in my opinion, because he doesn't even come into the scene as anything important until we saw him in a rope.
And while Luke's on Tatooine, Leia and Organa, I'm talking about the Senator, they're well into the rebellion already. And they're working openly with the rebellion, so they've been at it for a while now.
Which we already were introduced in the very first episode. Well, if you want to call it the first episode, Droids in Distress to Bail Organa. So obviously Leia is someplace, and Bail Organa is already doing his thing. So it would make sense, and I would love to see. I wouldn't mind her popping in 2-3 times, in this episode, because she was or 2 or 3 times a season, because she's a character that would definitely make sense. She had a hand in the Rebel Alliance. She was a very important character in it. I would love to see them come back to that.
Absolutely,
and also pay tribute to Padme, who was very involved in politics at a very young age because of being a queen at age 12, I think. Wow, 12, 13?
She was 15. I think she was a 15-year-old queen, and then she became a senator.
Yeah. It would be a nice little kind of nod to her as well, seeing that Leia was so involved in politics at a very young age.
Well, she's on the opposite end of it.
Right. Now, I guess next week we come back to episode 10. I guess we'll just call it Vision of Hope. We don't have much of a synopsis yet, but we will be back for that episode as well next week. I thank everybody for listening, and we do have a full Back to Tank show where we just discuss all angles and what's going on in the Star Wars front. I believe the new episode will be coming out either Friday evening or Saturday morning. So look for that. Our website, FromTheBackToTank.com, as well as RainManWasHere.com. You can find us on Stitcher. Just search From the Back to Tank. Leave us a review. Tweet us. Tell us you like us. And thanks again for listening. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Mike.
And have a good night, everyone.
What?
Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1, and if you've missed any portion of the show, you can always head over to FromTheBackToTank.com and listen to the show at your leisure. We're also on Stitcher, Smart Radio, Stitcher.com, search BACTA, and add us to your favorites. Thank you, and listen responsibly. And may the Force be with you.